Well, let me ask you this. We have like 30 minutes left.
Okay.
I'm curious, like, what, I don't know the best way to ask this question, but Sam Harris, Jordan Peterson,
Mhm.
what is your, if I were to ask, do you have a side that you would choose if you had to choose a side first?
I think more in general on Sam Harris's side,
Gotcha.
especially with certain topics.
Yeah.
But, I agree with virtually everything about Sam Harris and like maybe 90% with Jordan Peterson.
Oh, really? You agree
Yeah.
with 90% of Jordan Peterson?
I think so.
What's the 10% that you don't agree with?
His stuff about truth, like, just his ideas about truth, pragmatic truth, and also his some ideas about religion.
So do you think, see, I'm kind of with you. Like I love Sam Harris, and I just think the whole Sam Harris, Jordan Peterson conversation, like it's so awesome that they're doing that. I think it's like it brought this new awareness to the topics that they're talking about. But I feel like I really resonate with Jordan Peterson on the 10%. Like I feel like I resonate with that a lot. That there is this like truth that isn't scientific. It's like it's more of and this is where you can ask me questions and I'll see, but it's more like, well, science does not answer the ultimate question, which is, what is the ultimate question? It's like, why the fuck do we exist? I guess is the ultimate question. The why, like why is there such a thing as life? And why is there such a thing as reality? Like it's such a abstract, thing. And science definitely doesn't answer that. And I'm not religious, like I'm not Christian or anything, but it seems like all religions have been these stories passed down over, God knows how long, of people trying to understand the nature of reality, but maybe even more so trying to understand how to function as human beings with other humans to like live the best way. And I don't think the Bible is factual. I've said that before. I don't like look at it as a history book or anything, but it seems like there's a lot that you could get out of it, that maybe like what Jordan Peterson says, there is a different kind of truth that comes out of it, which is emotional truth. I don't know how he exactly how he puts it, but like there's just this different kind of, because when you boil really, if we're being really honest, from my perspective, everything boils down to emotions, right? Like facts are awesome, of course. Ben Shapiro, facts don't care about your feelings, but all you have is your feelings, really. That's like how you function as a human being, is the emotions that you feel, Seems like there has to be a way to understand that more. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's where I would say, well, I resonate with Jordan Peterson on that there is like something more fundamental about that,
Yeah, that's why we want to make sure truth is recognized as public, not something that we go off our own feelings because we're so very flawed, and fallible.
But what do you think about like the fact that your feelings are really all you have? Because even if someone tells you the truth and they give you the evidence, you still feel a certain way, or you can still react, and your emotions can still completely consume you, Like you don't have control over your emotions, it seems like.
For sure. I think that control is an illusion. We're not thinking creatures that can feel. We're feeling creatures that can think.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That's just how we evolved. Our neocortex is like on the outer shell of our brain in a little spot. So there's so much more that's unconscious that's going on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about that? Like, do you think that there is something, do you think it's possible to come to a more, I guess it isn't, but do you think that there's a way to like understand that deeper part of ourselves in a way that we can, I guess that's what religion tries to do, right? It seems like before we had science to understand the nature of reality, we had these stories that we told that were trying to do it. And it seemed like that these stories were way more connected to our emotions,
Yeah, before we had tools to make our cultural knowledge, stick. We just had talking, like language. We didn't have writing for a long time. So if people could tell stories to each other, this is one mechanism for having cultural evolution. So we think in terms of, stories very much. So our values are just mostly just stories, pretty much.
Yuval Harari, you like him? You know about him?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about that? Like, you think, but you don't think that there is like truth in that in like a universal sense? Or there's just no way to know, I guess,
I think they are memes that have been evolved that give adaptive, function.
Yeah.
There are rules of thumb for acting in the world, but it's just a little separate from, objective truth. Mapping the territory. That type of thing.
So why have you leaned toward? I mean, this is an assumption I'm making. Correct me if I'm wrong, but why have you leaned toward putting more importance on the objective truth of like science than the subjective truth of our emotions? Or have you even put one above the other?
Its ability to predict the future with greater accuracy. We're now able to develop models that can be tested and refined over time. Like we've just super sped up this process of accumulating knowledge and ideas.
Yeah. Well, what if, here's a theory. I'm sure someone has actually has a real theory about this, but what if our emotions are a way better predictor of the future? It's just that we're not in touch with it as much as maybe we were thousands of years ago. Listen to your gut. People say that all the time, go with your gut. And there's truth to that. Like people will say there's been studies, I'm sure, I think I've read something about it, that there is a lot of there is a lot of truth with, if you really allow your emotions to guide you, you'll be way better off, and a lot of people get stuck in the trap of, and this happens to me all the time. They get stuck in this trap of allowing their minds to completely just go off on these crazy rabbit holes that lead them toward anxiety and stress. But our emotions are actually telling you how you feel and what to do,
Yeah. There's a great book from Antonio Damasio called Descartes' Error, which is about how thinking and feeling are intrinsically linked. They're not separate things.
I've heard that. Need to read it for sure. I'll put that in the show notes.
So there's this great natural experiment of this person called Elliot who had a tumor in his brain that was removed. And after it was removed, he went back to just his regular life, and he pretty much destroyed his life by not doing things normally. Like in work, he would just not care about work, or he would just do things differently. At home, he would just, watch TV all day, not care about his family, not go to any of his children's games or anything like that. And then he just tried to and then he eventually ended up homeless.
Wow.
And then his brother took him in to try to help him, have him checked out by this wide range of doctors. No one could figure out what's wrong with him. He seemed fine. But then he got into Antonio Damasio's hands, and he did different tests, and he checked him for his emotions.
Wow.
And it looks like he had no emotions, pretty much. He was purely rational. So this was the classic assumption is that we use our reason in going through life. That's the thing leading the chariot.
Yeah.
That metaphor.
Sam Harris, that's his whole thing,
from
right?
Aristotle. But so that's a natural experiment to test that. If that's true, then he should be having a wonderful life. He doesn't have to have emotions in his way. But he ruined his life. And it looks like emotions are very much needed to just function in the world.
Yeah.
So,
wow, that's interesting. Jesus, I need to read that. Sounds really cool. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's why I resonate with Jordan Peterson with that whole, like, there is something to that, you know. And I guess, I guess I do, like, I guess I think, well, the religions that we have now aren't sufficient enough, you know. They're outdated. It's not sufficient. And, you know, who knows what artificial intelligence and technology is going to bring into our reality and of understanding emotions. That could just be a completely, like the Neuralink, Elon Musk Neuralink, you know, that could just be like, what the fuck is that going to be like? That's like,
who knows?
Crazy. Being able to just instantly access, like, we're going to be superhuman.
Yeah. I don't know how that would work. If it's just purely information we're getting, then I don't know. Will we be able to test our ideas faster? Will we be able to come to truth faster so we can make wiser decisions? Or will we just try to confirm our own biases using evidence that we just seek out just to confirm our own biases?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a really good question. Damn. I haven't thought about it like that. But it makes perfect sense that because having instant access to the internet through some Neuralink isn't giving us more information about our emotions. And if you're like what you're just talking about with that book, it's like we might use it to just confirm our own bias rather than connecting us to some better understanding of the truth. It's like, how do we understand our emotions more? Seems like that's a good question to ask. How the hell can you understand your own emotions?
That takes a lot of training over a long time. I try to meditate as much as I can. I don't do it every day, but I try to. Like, that seems to be the best tool. Like, there's this metaphor from The Righteous Mind of the rider and the elephant, where our conscious mind is just a little rider on top of the elephant, and our intuitions, our emotions are the elephant. And they are most of our cognition. So whichever the way they're going to go, that's just how it's going to be. And the rider rationalizes whatever that is.
Yeah.
So,
damn.
But we can train our elephants over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a hard one. I mean, that's like that's life, right? But that's a really good way to put it. That we are these fucking monkey minds, right? What is your shirt about?
That's why I like this shirt.
Yeah,
this shirt comes from a podcast called Cortex. It's like a productivity podcast, but I like the shirt because it reminds me.
Yeah,
I do have a divided mind, like a monkey mind, the rider and the elephant.
God, that's a good way to put it. Rider and the elephant. I got to think about that. That's like that makes. Now I have reason that this is an elephant here.
Yeah, that idea originally comes from the book, the Happiness Hypothesis from Jonathan Haidt.
I've heard. Yeah, I haven't read that. I've heard about it.
Finding Modern Truth in Ancient Wisdom, a great book. But I also highly recommend The Righteous Mind.
Yeah, for sure.
Why good people are divided by politics and religion.
Yeah, for sure.